Hello my wonderful students and chemistry lovers. Today I'm going to talk to you about ion-to-ion interactions and lattice energy. Alright, so recall from the last lecture I introduced ion-to-ion interactions, using Coulomb's law to describe it. Today we're going to still talk about ion-to-ion interaction, but we're going to look at it from the lens of what we call the lattice energy. My name is Dr. Lotan Nopasiri, and I'm going to serve as your guide today in this interesting lecture and conversation. Okay? When we talk about lattice energy, you are talking about the energy released when free gaseous ions combine, all right, to make 1 mole of a solid ionic compound. Okay? So if you have sodium gaseous ion combining with chloride gaseous ion, we're going to have sodium chloride, which is in the solid phase, and certain amount of energy is released in the process, and that amount of energy released in the process is known as lattice energy. Okay, and lattice energy is denoted with negative enthalpy change, okay, negative delta H, and lattice energy is measured in kilojoule per mole, kJ per mole. Okay, so again, lattice energy is that amount of energy that is released when free gaseous ions combine to make an ionic compound. Okay, so here we start with particles of higher energy, okay, high kinetic energy. Look at it, this is sodium ion, this is chloride ion, both in gaseous phases. Okay, gaseous metallic ion, gaseous non-metallic ion, both of them combine and held together by a strong ionic bond or electrostatic force called ionic bond to make an ionic compound. So we went from gaseous phases to solid phase. That means temperature reduced. Remember, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So if we're starting with particles of high energy and we're ending with particles of low energy, that means certain amount of energy ultimately was released. I said this in my last video, and I want to echo it for the very last time. When particles of high energy come together to ultimately form an ionic compound that is more stable and lower in potential energy, that means certain amount of energy will be released in the process. In this case, that amount of energy released in the process is known as the lattice energy. And the lattice energy is denoted here as negative delta H, or negative enthalpy change or heat change. Okay, the formula for lattice energy is given by U is equal to K bracket Q1 Q2 all over D. If you look critically or take a careful look at this particular equation, you will see that it is similar to the Coulomb's law. All right, the expression of the Coulomb's law, which is E directly proportional to Q1 Q2 all over D. All right, so what we are trying to say is that lattice energy is one of the basic applications of the Coulomb's law. Recall, mathematically, if you want to change a proportionality sign into an equal sign, then you have to bring in a proportionality constant, in which case we have the K, or the K value, which starts serving here as a proportionality constant and ultimately giving us the equal sign. All right, so as against the Coulomb's law, which is E directly proportional to bracket Q1 Q2 close the brackets all over D, what we now have is that one of the basic operations of Coulomb's law, or one of the basic applications of Coulomb's law, which happens to be what? Happens to be lattice energy, is equal to K, proportionality constant, okay, bracket Q1, Q2, which is product of their charges, all over what? D, which is the internuclear distance or the ionic radar. Okay, so lattice energy is one of the forms we express what we call Coulomb's law. Remember, Coulomb's law is a law that helps us to understand the electrostatic attractive forces between ions, mostly found in ionic compounds or charged particles. All right, nice. So this K is known as a proportionality constant, and of course its values vary depending on the crystal structure or the lattice structure of a given ionic compound. Recall, ionic compounds are made when ions aggregate in alternating, highly ordered forms known as crystal lattices. So different ionic compounds have different way that their ions are arranged within their crystal. So that gives us different constant K value for different ionic compounds. Since the K values are different for different ionic structures and lattices, you can now agree with me that we are going to have different lattice energies, okay, for different ionic compounds. Now, it's important to note here that these differences in lattice energy of different ionic compounds actually affect the properties of the ionic compounds. When we talk of properties that are affected by the differences in the lattice energy of ionic compound, we are talking number one of what we call the melting point and the boiling point, which is a physical property. Aside the melting and boiling point, another property of ionic compound that is strongly affected by the differences in lattice energy is what we call the solubility of the ionic compound. Now we're going to take them one after the other. All right. So the first property affected, all right, by differences in lattice energy, okay, is known as what? Boiling point and melting point. Here we are talking about the temperatures at which solid melts, and of course the temperature at which solid boils. The underlying point here, the key point here, the key takeaway here is that an ionic structure that is more tightly held should of course require more energy and high temperature for us to melt it than a less tightly held structure. What we are trying to say in whole essence is that ionic compounds with very strong ionic or ion-to-ion interaction, okay, will require higher amounts of energy and temperature for us to break those bonds and perhaps to melt the substance. Recall the strength of ion-to-ion interaction, which we understood in Coulomb's law and again expressed here, is dependent on the product of the charges of the two interacting ions and of course inversely proportional to what we call the internuclear distance or the ionic radii of those two ionic species that are interacting. I want to say it again, that the lattice energy, which is actually the measure of how strong an ionic bond is dependent on the product of the charges of the interacting ions, as you can see from the formula of lattice energy, and again inversely proportional, right, to the internuclear distance or the bond length, okay, or the ionic radii between the interacting ions. So as the product of the charges or as the ionic strength increases, the lattice energy equally increases. Remember, lattice energy is one of the expressions or one of the applications or one of the ways we express the Coulomb's law. Nice. And again, the decreasing ionic distance or the decreasing internuclear distance between the participating ion, okay, the smaller the ionic size or the internuclear distance between ion, of course, again, the higher the lattice energy. So let's look at the lattice energy here as a measure of the strength of ion-to-ion interaction or a measure of the strength of ionic bond. So the higher the lattice energy of a given ionic compound, of course, the more energy or the more amount of temperature you need for it to melt and of course for it to boil. Again, the stronger the ion-to-ion interaction, the higher the lattice energy. And again, this strength of ion-to-ion interaction will always be the product of the increasing product of charges and of course decreasing ionic size or the internuclear distance. Those two factors will always be factors that determines how strong an ionic bond is, okay? Increasing ionic strength or magnitude of charges, okay? And what? Decreasing internuclear distance or decreasing sizes of the participating ion. Beautiful. Again, the ionic structure, of course, that is more tightly held, okay, that's the ion to ion interaction that is very strong, okay, require more energy and higher temperature to melt than a less tightly held structure. All right, so it is critical. If you have an ionic compound with very strong ionic bond or ion to ion interaction or higher lattice energy, of course, the more you require more energy to, of course, melt and boil it. Okay, and the reverse is the case when you have an ionic compound with lower, okay, ion to ion interaction or lower ionic bond strength. Okay, that is critical, and the lesser the amount of energy for it to reach its melting point and its boiling point. And we're going to express this beautifully using magnesium oxide in comparison with lithium fluoride. So we're going to place their lattice energies side by side. And meanwhile, the lattice energy of certain ionic compounds, can be measured using an instrument called calorimeter. So using a calorimeter, we find that the magnesium oxide, lattice energy of magnesium oxide is negative 3791 kilojoule per mole, as against the lattice energy of lithium fluoride, which is giving us negative 1047 kilojoule per mole. If you assess these two lattice energies for magnesium oxide against that of lithium fluoride, you will agree with me that that of magnesium oxide with negative 3791 is almost 4 times the lattice energy of lithium fluoride, which is negative 1047 kilojoule per mole. So if we understand that magnesium oxide has almost 4 times the lattice energy of lithium fluoride, you will agree with me that invariably it's still gonna have, higher melting point and higher what? Boiling point. That's what we're saying. So the fact that MgO has almost 4 times the lattice energy of lithium fluoride also have us, having a reflection, okay, of all of these things we have explained, because magnesium oxide has stronger ion to ion interaction. So invariably, it's going to require more amount of energy and temperature for the ionic bond to be overcome and for us to ultimately melt it. So if you place magnesium oxide and lithium fluoride again side by side and objectively compare them in terms of their melting point, you're going to find that magnesium oxide has a higher melting point with the value of 2835 degrees Celsius as against 848 degrees Celsius of lithium fluoride. And that is for the melting point. And again, if we want to compare the both of them, magnesium oxide and lithium fluoride, in terms of their boiling point, you again see the trend where you have magnesium oxide having a very higher boiling point of 3600 degrees Celsius as against 1673 degrees Celsius for lithium fluoride. So magnesium oxide, it is clear, has stronger ion to ion interaction, has stronger ionic bond, and of course has higher lattice energy, almost 4 times the lattice energy of lithium fluoride. And that is why it also has higher melting point and of course higher boiling point, way much higher than that of lithium fluoride. If that is settled, then the second thing we must understand is that the differences in lattice energy or the strength of ion to ion interaction also determines the solubilities of ionic compound. Okay, this is very key, because if we get salt and place into the water, a tumbler of water or cup of water containing, if we take sodium chloride and introduce into a cup of water, okay, you are going to have the salt dissolve. Now, what we need to understand is how the dissolution works. Here is how it works. It's important for us to understand that water molecule has dipole moments, okay? towards one end of the water molecule, you're going to have hydrogens that have partial positive charges, and towards the oxygen end, you will discover the oxygen has 2 lone pairs of electron and invariably has a partial negative charge. So we say that water has dipole moments. Okay. Now, since we have introduced sodium chloride into the cup or tumbler of water, what happens is that the water molecules, using their partial negative ends, okay, all right, their partial negative poles, will associate around the sodium ion, which is positively charged, and the other end of water dipole, which is the positive partial positive hydrogen atoms, okay, or the partial positive ends, again we aggregate or associate itself around the negatively charged chloride ions, ultimately pulling the 2 ions apart and pulling them into the solution. Remember, when you dissolve salt in water, okay, you have solute, you have solvent, okay, and then you have salt solution. So this is the principle that underscores how ionic compounds dissolve. Again, when you place salt into a cup or tumbler of water, what happens is that water has a dipole moment. Some ends of water is partial positively charged, which is the hydrogen end, and of course the oxygen end is partial negative, of course, because of the 2 lone pairs of electrons. It has excess number of electrons around that pole. So the partial negative end of the water dipole, of course, we aggregate themselves around the positively charged ion of the sodium chloride. The same way, the partial positive hydrogen ends of water molecules, of course, we aggregate or associate themselves around the negatively charged end of the chloride ion. And this ultimately separates the sodium ion, okay, from the chloride ion, which are the component ions that made the sodium chloride in the first place. And when these water molecules aggregate, as I've told you, using their positive end pole and their negative pole around, positive pole around the chloride ion, negative pole around the sodium ion, they ultimately separate these 2 ions and breaking that ionic bond and pulling those ions into the solution. All right, so it's very important for us to understand that the greater the force required for water molecules to pull apart, okay, these ions in the crystal solute, okay, the less soluble the solute is likely gonna be. What are we trying to say? The stronger the strength of the ion-to-ion interaction, the higher the lattice energy, the stronger the ionic bond, the more force that is required by water molecules to do the pulling apart of these ions. So if you are placing 2 salts side by side, the one that has higher lattice energy, you will agree with me, has higher ion-to-ion attraction or interactive forces. Invariably, the one that has higher lattice energy, again, has the stronger ionic bond, all right, between its atoms. That one that has the higher lattice energy, that means has the higher ion-to-ion interaction. That means it has the stronger ionic bond, will be less soluble. Why? Because that particular salt compound now requires, water molecules requires huge amount of force for them to actually yank apart those 2 component ions and put them into the solution. Remember, energy is the ability to do work. So the stronger the strength of ion-to-ion interaction, the higher the lattice energy, the more work water molecules will have to do, of course, to pull apart their component ions and pull them into the solution. So if we consider lithium fluoride against magnesium oxide again, you will agree with me that magnesium oxide, which has higher charges or charge magnitude or higher ionic strength of 2 plus and 2 minus, of course, has higher, stronger ionic bond than lithium fluoride, which has 1 plus and 1 minus charges. Again, magnesium oxide has stronger ionic bond. Again, you can see that it has almost 4 times the lattice energy of lithium fluoride. So that means that magnesium oxide will be less soluble than lithium fluoride, since lithium fluoride has weaker ionic bond than magnesium oxide. So on the basis of greater lattice energy, you can see that magnesium oxide has greater lattice energy, and if we make predictions as we just did that magnesium oxide is stronger or has stronger ionic bond than lithium fluoride, common experiments that we carry out or that has been carried out helps us to actually, say that our predictions are correct, because at 20 degrees Celsius, the solubility of lithium fluoride in water is 2.7 gram per liter. Pay attention to this, okay? And the solubility of magnesium oxide is way less, only a value of 0.006 gram per liter. You see it? So I say it again, at 20 degrees centigrade, it was found out that the solubility of lithium fluoride is high, way much higher, with 2.7 gram per liter value as against the solubility of what? Magnesium oxide, which is very less soluble than lithium fluoride, with only a value of 0.006 gram per liter. So with all we have said in this lecture, you agree with me, okay, that lattice energy is the measure of the strength of the ionic bond in an ionic compound. Again, lattice energy is dependent on two factors, just like we have in the Coulomb's law. It's dependent on the what? The magnitude of the charges, or ionic strength, and of course is inversely proportional to the internuclear distance between the interacting ions. Just to nail and buttress our points of the predictions we made in terms of the ionic strength of magnesium oxide when compared to that of lithium fluoride, let's look at the product of their charges as we conclude. If you look at magnesium oxide, okay, you have 2+ charge, the product of their charge is 2+ charge, and of course 2- charge, okay? So when you multiply 2+ and 2-, you are going to have 4-. You see it? So this one has very high what? Product of the charges. When we also compare the product of the charges of lithium fluoride, it becomes what? It becomes 1+ charge multiplied by 1- charge, which will give us 1- charge. So the product of the charges of lithium fluoride is lesser than the product of charges of magnesium oxide. As a matter of fact, the product of the charges of magnesium oxide is 4 times the product of the charges of what? Of lithium fluoride. So recall that the ion-to-ion interaction, or the strength of the ionic bond, even from the lattice energy, is happening, okay, as the ionic charges or ionic strength or magnitude of their charges increases, the product of the magnitude of charge increases, okay. The one that has higher product of charges or magnitude or ionic strength, invariably we have stronger or higher lattice energy, and invariably we have higher ion-to-ion interaction, and of course stronger ionic bond. That is why we say that lattice energy is a measure of the strength of the ionic bond in an ionic compound. I believe all we have said made sense, and the 2 takeaways I want you again to take away is that the differences in the lattice energies, as we can see when we compare magnesium oxide and lithium fluoride, okay, as a matter of fact, affect certain physical properties of certain ionic compounds. And we told you that the difference in lattice energies affect, number 1, their melting points and boiling points of ionic compound, and again it affects the solubility of ionic compound. All right, in the next video we are going to go into the evaluation aspects of the 2 last videos we made. This particular video, ion-to-ion interactions and lattice energy, and ion-to-ion interactions and Coulomb's law. We're going to assess our learners, okay, and try to see if they actually understood what we've done in the previous video and in today's video. We're going to give you the kind of questions that your examiner will want you to answer. Some of these kind of questions is how to rank ionic substances based on either their melting point or their boiling points. How do you rank them? They can give you 1, 2, 3, 4 ionic compounds. I say in increasing order, rank them based on their melting point and of course their boiling point. So the understanding of Coulomb's law and the understanding of lattice energy ultimately will help us to answer some of that questions. And once we are done with that evaluation, we're going to go into how to calculate the lattice energy of different ionic compounds. This is one of the questions that I have gotten even in my inbox. A lot of students in their physical chemistry courses, struggle with understanding how to calculate the lattice energy of different ionic compounds. In the next, 2 lecture videos after the evaluation and assessment, we're going to dive deep into trying to teach you how to calculate the lattice energies of different ionic reactions to make an ionic compound. It is very important because we cannot measure lattice energy directly of a given reaction, ionic reaction directly. Okay? However, scientists has developed a mathematical model or practical model that we can use to calculate the lattice energy of a particular ion to ion reaction to make an ionic compound. All right? And this particular method is called the Born-Haber process. Okay? In the Born-Haber process, I'm going to teach you how to use the Born-Haber cycle, all right, to calculate the lattice energies of a given reaction. Okay? And I want you to also understand that the Born-Haber cycle is one of the expressions of what we call Hess's law. And Hess's law in turn is an offshoot of the first law of thermodynamics. So recall I told you, whenever you are talking about ionic compound, which is matter, you can't talk about ionic compound, of course, without talking about energy, because the entire universe is made up of matter and energy. So whenever we are talking about ionic compound, which is matter, we also have to look at the thermodynamics, or how energy plays around that particular matter. That way, we can have an all-inclusive learning. I told you again when I was starting this series, I'm not just going to teach you types of chemical bonding at the periphery. We're going to dive deep into appreciating every aspect of different types of chemical bonding. And when we are done, with Born-Haber cycle and how to calculate the lattice energy, we're going to also go straight into looking at what we call the giant lattice structures of ionic compounds. After that, we'll look at the general properties, okay, of ionic compounds, how they conduct electricity in molten form, okay, how they form crystalline structures, and all of those fantastic properties that we know about ionic compound. After that, we now move into the second type of bonding called covalent bonding. And again, just like we have done for ionic bonding, we're going to take them one video at a time to describe and explore everything around covalent kind of bonding. I don't know if you got value from this particular lecture. If you learned anything from this lecture, kindly like, comment and share so that this video can get to those learners who ab initio we are disenchanted or found chemistry boring. Chemistry doesn't have to be boring. Kindly share my video. Kindly use the invite button to invite your friends and well-wishers to be part of what we are doing here on Chem Class with Dr. Luther. Until the next time, keep staying safe, stay away from trouble, keep bettering your life, and keep bettering your chemistry here with us on Chem Class with Dr. Luther. I remain your humble friend, Dr. Luther Nopase. Until the next time, stay safe and bye.